Will anyone be able to get the gavel?
The crazy eight. Led by Gates, the amount of damage they have done to this party and to this country is insurmountable.
Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about politicians. I got a couple of clips I want to show you from Meet the Press that aired on October 22nd, 2023, and I'll make some comments along the way. There's also an interview with the DEA administrator that I want to show you. Let's just dive right in.
There are more Americans dying on our southern border than they are in Ukraine. Ukraine has $9 billion right now. So let's sit down and let's look exactly what weaponry they need. Israel, let's not ditter around.
But Mr. Speaker, 31 Americans
tomorrow, and then let's make sure.
Yeah, but 31 Americans just lost their lives.
Let's make sure our southern border is secure.
Yeah, but 31 Americans just lost their lives in Israel. That is not something that we have seen happen at the southern border.
CBS conducted an interview with DEA Administrator Ann Milgram. She puts it in no uncertain terms what the crisis is at the southern border.
In the past year, there have been more than 107,000 overdose fatalities in this country, and the synthetic opioid fentanyl is responsible for nearly 70% of those deadly overdoses. It's the leading cause of death for people 18 to 45 years old.
So what we see happening at DEA is essentially that there are two cartels in Mexico, the Sinaloa cartel and the Jalisco New Generation cartel, that are killing Americans with fentanyl at catastrophic and record rates like we have never seen before. And those cartels are acting with calculated, deliberate treachery to get fentanyl to the United States. Because to be really clear, there is an unlimited amount of drugs that they can make. We have to stop it before it comes from China to Mexico to the U.S. The second piece is that, yes, we have to be aggressive on this.
Are the tech companies allies?
So I hear you on Snapchat's statement. 107,622 Americans died last year. We will see more deaths this year.
107,622 deaths last year alone due to the crisis at the southern border, and more to come. This is coming from the DEA administrator. Now, one death is too many. I'm not going to trivialize the 31 Americans that have died in Israel, and I don't expect you to trivialize the 107,622 Americans that have died due to the crisis at the southern border.
President Biden is linking a request for aid to Israel to Ukraine, formally asking Congress for $105 billion in emergency funding.
This is what politicians do when attempting to fund an increasingly unpopular position. In the next segment, Kristen Welker asks Pence what his take is on linking aid for Israel to Ukraine. He gives a typical politician's answer. If you don't know what a politician looks like, this is it.
And just yes or no, because do you think that aid to Ukraine and Israel should be linked?
Of course, I've been a very strong supporter of military aid to Ukraine since the invasion.
Would you support linking the aid?
I would support Congress moving that measure together or separately, but I think it's more important what the outcome is.
I would support Congress moving that measure either together or separately. Does that sound like an answer? Doesn't sound like an answer to me. What do you think? Is this the kind of guy you want to be president? Can't make a decision, won't make a decision, wants somebody else to make the decision for him, and then he'll just support it? Luckily, we won't have that problem because as of this recording, he has since dropped out of the presidential elections. Next, we turn to the interview with Anthony Blinken on Israel and the hostages.
Now, according to the Israeli military, 212 hostages are still being held captive, at least 30 of them under the age of 16. Hamas has come out with a statement saying they are prepared to release 2 more hostages. What can you tell us about that? Do you see this as a credible offer coming from this terrorist organization?
Well, first, Kristen, we've been working on this from day one, engaged with different partners in the region, sending clear messages about the need to immediately and unconditionally release all of the hostages. And it was gratifying to see that Judith and Natalie Ronnen were released yesterday. We're hopeful that more are released, but the bottom line is this: they need to be released.
Do you take this word by Hamas that they are potentially prepared to release 2 more hostages seriously? Is the U.S. government, for example, working with Qatar to make that happen as we speak?
Well, acts are what speak, not words, particularly coming from Hamas. But we've been engaged, as I said, with partners. So one of the first things that I did after the horrific attack of October 7th and hostages were taken, men, women, young children, elderly people, it's extraordinary, was to talk to everyone we could who might have influence with Hamas in terms of releasing them.
I was told a long time ago there's no such thing as a stupid question. But I think some questions can come pretty damn close to being stupid. Does Hamas lose credibility? Let me answer the question like Blinken didn't answer the question. So, once Hamas went into Israel, murdered civilians, beheaded babies, cut unborn baby from its mother, and took hostages, yes, they have lost all credibility.
As you know, Israel decided to cut off water to Gaza, along with the fuel electricity that powers the water and sewage plants in the territory. That has exposed residents to all sorts of potential contaminated water and sickness as well. What was the strategy behind that? And can you clarify, has any of the water been restored, Mr. Secretary?
Now, I'm not a military strategist, but I do recognize that probably one of the fundamental tactics in a military siege is to cut off supplies. Supplies to food, power, water. This has a twofold effect in my mind, both physical and mental. And I remember a quote that I heard a while back. I have read a book or two. So I remember the quote I heard or read. It's attributed to Napoleon, but it's a variation, and Frederick the Great also. Frederick the Great first and then Napoleon. But an army marches on its stomach. What that means is war is a physical activity. If you can't feed your soldiers, they can't fight. So an army marches on its stomach. You need to keep the supply lines going so that your troops get the sustenance and the supplies they need, both food, water, and armaments. So that's the whole point behind cutting off the supplies. Yes, it's war. Civilians are going to be impacted by war. A lot of civilians in this case, because Hamas has embedded themselves in a civilian population. That doesn't change the fact that you have to use tactics of war to try to defeat your enemy. So there you have it. Politicians being politicians. I don't understand why they can't answer a question. I can't understand who they're pandering to in some of these questions that they're asked and they don't answer the questions. But that's politicians for you. If you like this video, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button so you'll be notified when new videos are uploaded. Check out my other videos, and we'll see you next time. Peace out.